Alright, in Concept C, we're going to be working on how to take our measurements and reflect their precision in different calculations. So your goal is to be able to complete this with addition and subtraction, as well as multiplication and division. So why are we rounding our answers? Basically, it's critical that the result of our calculation does not imply a greater dense or precision than any of the individual measurements. So we need to make sure that when we have our individual measurements, their precision is reflected in our final answer. So just make sure, I'm going to be talking a lot about place value, so just review that with yourself if you need that. So with addition and subtraction, when two measurements are added or subtracted, the answer should contain as many decimal places as the measurement with the least precise decimal place. So what do I mean by that? If I have these two numbers, 892 versus 892.3, this has a higher precision, meaning that this answer to the tenths has a greater precision than this answer to the ones. So basically, the further out to the right you go with your significant figures, the more precision you have. Alright, so our first example, we're adding three values together. We have them to the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousands in this case. So when I plug this addition into my calculator, I get 54.664. Now, we have to make sure we either round to the tenths, the hundreds, or the thousands. Well, we want the least precise, which means then that our number to the tenths is our least precise. That means that our answer here from our calculator needs to be rounded to the tenths in order to get 54.7. And why it goes up to the 0.7 is because this 6 in our tenths has a number 5 or greater to the right, which then rounds this up. So we get 54.7. Alright, let's look at these three examples in your packet. For number 1, our answer before it is rounded from our calculator is 5.605. Our answer should be rounded to which place value? Well, over here in number 1, we have it to the thousands and we have it to the hundredths. That means then that our answer needs to be rounded to the hundredths, which is where this red line is showing me. So our correctly rounded answer is going to be, and ignore this number, I got to add this as a 1 right here. So we should have 5.61 as our final answer, since this 5 is going to round that up. Number 2, our subtraction here, we get 12.49. We see that our number 2 has a number to the tenths and the hundredths, which means then that our answer should be rounded to the tenths. So when we look at our 12.49, we're going to be looking at rounding to the tenths. And because this number is 5 or greater, we end up at 12.5. Number 3, if you want to go ahead and pause for a second and try this one out on your own. And then we will go through it. So to check your work, your calculator should get this large number here. We have it to the ones and the hundredths, which means then that our answer should be rounded to the ones, which means that our final answer should be 15,998. So remember, when we talk about addition and subtraction, it's all about place value. However, with multiplication and division, when two measurements are multiplied or divided, the answer should contain as many significant figures as the number with the least number of sig figs. So we're not really worried about place values, we're worried about the total number of sig figs in each of the numbers that we're going to be multiplying or dividing. So in this example, we have these two numbers we're going to multiply. One contains 4 sig figs, one contains 3. So my calculator, this is the large number that I get. I want to go with the least precise, which is my 3 sig figs, which means I need to round this number to 3 sig figs, which means then my answer is 204. Kind of the easiest way to do the rounding is to start on the left, go to your first significant figure, which is my 2. So I have my 2, my 0, and my 4. So think about taking that number and rounding it to the ones place. Even though technically we're not purposely rounding to the ones, by rounding to the ones we get our answer with 3 sig figs. Alright, so if you want to pause and try out these multiplication and division ones on your own and see how you do. For number 5 here, we have a number of 4.50 times 12. Our answer is 54. However, we can see in our problem that this one has 3 sig figs, this one has 4 sig figs. So our answer has to be rounded to 3 sig figs. That means that we have to show the point 0 and show that this has 3 significant figures based on the measurements. It would be incorrect to simply leave it as 54. Oh, for this And these numbers are not going to match what you guys have in your packet, so just ignore that. I want to say that this is actually number 4, because it's changed from last year, 5, and then 6. So in this number 5, when you multiply those two numbers, you get 1.54. Okay, if we look back at our problem, we have 2 sig figs, and this has 3 significant figures, which means we only want 2. So our answer is simply 1.5. And then finally with number 6, we have these two numbers here. We get this large number in our calculator. We can see here that we have 6 sig figs and 4, which means then that we only want 4 significant figures in our answer, so we round that to reflect that precision. Please make sure you do not put any decimal point there. If you were to put the decimal point there, that would make this to have 5 sig figs, which would go against what you would like. All right, one last thing I want to show you and introduce you to it in case you haven't seen it yet and give you kind of a head start on tomorrow's class is multi-step calculations. When you have different operations that follow different rules, you have to do them in individual steps. So in this number 7, we have one that is involving subtraction and then multiplication. Those are 2 different rules, so thus we need to do this in 2 different steps. So you're first going to do the subtraction, so 320 minus 22.7. My calculator gives me 297.3. Subtraction involves place values. So since this one is to the ones, which is least precise, I need to round my number to 297. So this is rounded based on my subtraction. When I then go and take 297 times 3.8, I get an answer of, and I'll just place this right below the line, 1,128.6. Because this has 3 sig figs and this has 2 sig figs, my answer also has to have 2 significant figures. So that's going to be 1,100 in order to show my 2 sig figs, which is based on my multiplication rule. All right, with number 8, we're going to do the subtraction here first in this case. So 1.401 minus 0.399. You get an answer of 1.002. Now we want in this case to go out to the 1,000 spot, and my answer actually is given to the 1,000, so I can simply record that as is. However, then when we do 67.35 divided by 1.002, we get an answer of, and I'll place it underneath the line here, 67.21556.8, and so on. So when we go and look at division, it's by number of sig figs. This has 4 sig figs. This also has 4 significant figures. So you guessed it, you're going to need to place this as 4 significant figures. So 67.2, and then because I'm going to be stopping my number here at the 1, I need to round up to 2. So 67.22. And then finally for number 9, you're going to do these 2 addition and subtraction problems. So the first one, give me 1 second. You get 17.85. I only want to go to the tenths, so I'm going to do 17.9 times the answer to the subtraction. Okay, you get 5.098. You only want to go to the 10th spot, which means this will simply be 5.1. When we then take our 2 steps, 17.9 times 5.1, we get an answer of 91.29. This only has 3 sig figs, and then I only have 2 sig figs in the 5.1, which means I only want this to show 2 significant figures, which gives me an answer of 91. So I have students ask a lot of the times, what should I be rounding to? You should be rounding based on your significant figures, whether it's place value or number, in order to reflect the precision. We'll be spending a lot more time on these multi-step ones. Just try and review the video again if you're having some trouble. You can go ahead and answer and give me a little summary or give me a question that you had from the video so I can verify that you took care of the homework. And you are all set. Great job.